Hello, everybody. I am Tyler Chen, and welcome to Share Your Secrets. This is the interview podcast game show web event, Twitch stream that everybody's been clamoring for. Everybody needs. But yeah, the main goal of Share Your Secrets is to try to get as many kind of animation, life secrets, just anything that our contestant wants to share that might be helpful to our lives, to our animation journey, everything. I just said, what is Share Your Secrets? To steal as many life/animation/learning secrets out of your participant in an hour. We've got 1 hour coming up on the clock. It hasn't started yet, but I'm reading a comment. Tyler's drip can water a whole village. Thank you. Thank you. This is part of Open Animation, which is a community that of animation students and animation professionals learning together and sharing what they know about animation. I feel like let's dive in. Let's dive in. We're 5 minutes in. No point in waiting on this knowledge. This is Share Your Secrets. Clapping. Yeah, we now have sound effects, and I can't turn them off really. Okay. And introducing our insane contestant today, which is absolutely amazing because he's just coming off of an interview from New York City. This man was in New York City digitally this morning. Introducing the one and only Michael Rianda. Michael, welcome to Share Your Secrets. I am so proud. Hey. There you are. Boom, 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 boom. Thank you for joining this weird wild ride.
I'm so excited. Oh. There's nothing I've been more excited about than whatever this is.
Yeah. No. And you know what's funny about this is that this is supposed to be educational. I think that's the underlying.
Yeah, of course it is. And I will say we're burning minutes right now.
You're right. And I love that energy. And thank you for setting the standard of that. You are a person who, is a very giving person, likes to share knowledge. So thank you so much for doing that. But
I also just can I say something?
Yeah, please, Mike.
I would like to say that I love Tyler. Tyler worked on Gravity Falls, and I went to CalArts with Tyler. He is like the funniest. He does the funniest cartoons. Watch Oppo. Watch anything he's done anywhere. Every time he touched a storyboard, it got funnier and weirder and better. And also just in terms of like being around someone, Tyler makes me laugh hysterically. So I'm just going to be giddily giggling the whole time.
That's very much the same. And yeah, thank you. That is very much the same. Mike, if you do not know this, oh jeez, Mike, you've already gone away. We got this. We got this. Don't worry.
Strap in, kids.
It's coming.
You got some knowledge coming your way.
Knowledge is coming. Don't worry.
We're gonna fire knowledge bullets.
Boom.
Right at the camera.
Alrighty. Yeah, this is the way it's gotta work. I forgot. Mike is the writer, producer, I don't know, the writer, director, everything of the beautiful new movie, The Mitchells versus the Machines, formerly known as Connected, but The Mitchells versus Machines. Ooh, what a title. I and the whole entire animation community am so freaking excited for this movie. So excited that it got made. It looks absolutely amazing. I'm gonna just go in on here real quick. Yeah, that's
Yeah. Oh no. This is a cursed image.
okay. This is a bad image to show.
No, it's okay. It's okay, but this is the first image released online, and people are like, "What is this?"
I don't know, man. This is absolutely beautiful.
It is beautiful. The art team did an incredible job on it, but it does make it look like the perspective of the movie is like cell phones. But it's more than that, guys. It's more than that. Let me tell you right now, person to person, that is not the perspective of the movie.
It's a movie that's coming out. It's coming out and it's coming hot. That's all we can say about it.
When? We don't know, but soon.
It's coming hot. And you know what? I speaking as an animation fan over here, this is a game changer. I'm crazy excited, and you should all be pumped. I know how pumped everybody's getting about this beautiful movie.
I can feel it.
Mike,
feel it. It's powering me.
It's beautiful. This is share your secrets. You have gone on a journey of learning, and today is the day that's tested.
Okay, yeah.
So let's share some secrets, right?
Let's do it.
Let's see where this all goes. One thing that Mike was very nice to just kind of encourage was this idea of, you know what? Hey, we need some knowledge points for share your secrets, and I can't agree more. So describing knowledge points, I think what's going to happen, Michael, is that I am going to award a knowledge point by going Bing, maybe.
Okay, all right, great.
It's just more so it's gonna be up here because I can't fully, but Jess is writing it down. But I'm also going Bing. I'm putting knowledge points in the back of my head.
We need you in the chat to be on top of the knowledge points.
Yeah. We need an accurate account.
An accurate rating.
And
if I don't get above 25, I will be killed on screen.
Well, this leads to the next. There's tiers of knowledge points. So this is what you're playing for. We have tiers of different knowledge points of just how much knowledge you're dropping. Tier 1, you're dropping 5 to 10 KPs. And that is the equivalent of our brains are on fire with knowledge. And Michael, do you know what you get if you get to tier 1?
What do I get?
Yes. Yeah, you get a pair of tongs.
Whoa!
These haven't been used that much. These really haven't been used that much. They have been used, but they haven't been used much. We
need tongs.
We have 2 pairs of tongs.
Oh.
We only need 1. So yeah, that's tier 1. That's tier 1. So you're trying to get to 5 knowledge points first off. Tier 2, I'm an enlightened being. That's 11 to 22, 20 something knowledge points. And if you get to that tier, if you make me an enlightened being, you get this. This is a rice cooker that you can just put in the microwave.
My God.
Yeah, you just put
my God.
in here and then you put it in the microwave and it does it all. It takes way longer than a rice cooker. It's not very great, but all right. So we're heading to tier 3, and this is the big one. 21 to 500 KP points. There's no more knowledge that we can be had, right? It's beyond big brain. You get a drawing of yourself by Jessica Hong.
What?
This is you ripped because you're looking good too. And this is called The Machine. You are the machine in your movie.
I'm going insane.
Yeah, I know, but that's only if we get to tier 3. That's only if we get to tier 3.
We gotta get there. We gotta get there.
This is you ripped, drawn by Jessica Hong today, and I did the shading for the muscles. That's you tattooed the machine. So let's get going.
I'll do whatever I have to do to get to tier 3.
This is pure madness. But you know what? That's Share Your Secrets, and we're dropping some knowledge. So get ready. Because we have different rounds, but we're headed into round one, my friend. Round one of Share Your Secrets. Clap. All right, round one. Simple rounds. Right?
Okay.
These are simple questions.
All right.
I'm opening up with a question that we like to call the appetizer.
Ooh.
So
I love
this is
it.
just a nice light question for you. Let's put our knowledge hats on. Here's the appetizer. Gravity Falls was a very good show. What was something that you realized was very important to making a very good show that you didn't know at the beginning of making that very good show?
Okay.
You know, where it's like, oh, what in the process of making Gravity Falls is like, oh, geez, this is a special sauce that I didn't know about.
Yeah, no, I think that's an awesome question. I learned so much on Gravity Falls, because it was sort of like going to animation grad school or something. Because it was like making, 20, I guess, little movies. And they all had to work, and we drove ourselves insane and ground ourselves to the bone trying to make sure that they all were good. And I think that I learned a couple things. One is that this is something I had an intuition about before, but it really drove home in Gravity Falls how important it is to have legitimate value in your show, which is to say, for example, there was an episode called Time Travel. No, there was an episode called, I don't know what it was called. It was the one about Mabel's pig gets taken by a pterodactyl. Land Before Swine was what it was called. And in that, we wrote it. And when you read it, even though you know that Mabel loves the pig, you didn't really care that much when the pig got taken. And this is something we learned over and over and over again on each episode. And it was always something I had in my gut, and it really bore out, was that if you don't have a scene in the beginning of the show really showing how much Mabel loves this pig and really slowing down and being real and letting the emotions come out and not having jokes every 13 seconds and just really showed that oh, Mabel really does love this pig. So then when it comes into jeopardy later in the show, you actually care about it instead of just who cares? The other thing, and we learned that over and over again, if there was a story about Mabel and Dipper's relationship, you have to have a scene early on showing how valuable their relationship is and how much they love each other. So then you're worried about the bond breaking at the end. That happened over and over and over again. Another quick thing is that just if your story doesn't have, if your story's not about a main character with a goal that they're striving for, you can get away with that in a short or even maybe an 11-minute episode but for a 22-minute episode, the thing will just fall apart. If the main character doesn't want something really bad and that's driving them throughout the thing. And also one of the biggest things that I learned from Alex Hirsch is that I'm a real big overwriter. All my scripts were long. I always wanted to hang on to every joke. And one thing that Alex was really good about was look, man, if it's not a 10 out of 10 joke, or if it's not important story, let's just cut it. There are all these kind of B- and C- jokes that I was hanging on to. And when you got rid of that stuff, it really helped the story sort of go along. And you went from it's a very cheap trick, but you just get to the good stuff faster and the audience is happier. So those are some lessons.
Yeah. The cutting, just that insane idea of cutting or killing your babies, that's so hard. That's so hard, but it ultimately is I wonder, coming off of a movie, how just true that rings. And is it just hey, the more and more that you kill your babies or kill your children, jeez, just does it
find those babies
find those babies, take them down? Does it just rings truer and truer? Is that kind of what
Yeah, no, totally. I think that was again another sort of like lesson that I learned, sort of working with Chris and Phil
Mm-hmm.
in a deeper way, which is that, when we were making Gravity Falls, it was like, just make it, make it as good as you can, and then it gets ripped away, and then they have to make it.
Right.
But on a movie, you can really, every scene, every moment, you can like work over and over and over again,
Right.
and not sometimes if you work with something over and over again, it gets bad, but like it really gives you a chance to test it a bunch, and you're like, this joke never gets a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth the time it's taking,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And like, and it really is like, there was this whole thing in our movie. I always talk about it because I co-wrote the movie with Jeff Rowe, who we both
Yes.
know.
Mwah.
And he's the
Oh,
best.
mwah.
And he was like, and the very first draft of the movie, I was like, oh, one of the big things about this movie is that this family has to kidnap the president of the United States. And at the time, like, Obama was president, and the guy looked just like Obama, and it was like a really funny scene, seeing like, a normal family, like, listen, Mr. President, we gotta but Jeff was like, from the beginning, was like, I think we just had to lose the president thing. And I was like, are you crazy? That's the whole reason we're making this. And I was like so mad at him, and we were like really like at each other's throats. And then we tested the movie, and we had that president scene in, and it was like, at least for our movie, was like well written, well boarded, well executed, well edited.
Mm-hmm.
And it just died because Jeff was totally right. It didn't serve any story function. So we just had to, and I was immediately like, put it in the dumpster. It's dead.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I will hold on to things until I hear a crowd of people watch it in silence, where these jokes.
Well, and solid forward thinking too, because the idea of a politician being kidnapped right now probably maybe not the
well, and it was all just the it was all like Trump got elected as soon as that idea would have even gone into production or something, and it was just like, this is too much of a hot wire. I don't ever so we did.
That was an appetizer. Bing, 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 bing. And yeah, Jess is also saying. So those are some knowledge points. I'm gonna give that was a 4-binger. The other part of that is I forgot to put the ceremonial clock on. I'm gonna notch this down to a 50. Or like a 51. Let's give one more knowledge minute.
That's fair.
So right when this timer rings, we're done. There's no more knowledge to be given. So let's keep it rolling. Next up, open notes. The Michael Rianda edition. This is something that we do, which is just fun, like things that are helpful. That you kind of find around the internet, or just like, hey, things that really get you excited that you need to share. Michael was kind enough to make a list that we will share in our resource pages of not just links to things, but films to watch, books to read, all of this stuff. And let's I just want to get this. We will be posting this in our Discord channel. And oh my gosh, there is a whole mess of
there's a lot of stuff. I did too much stuff
of knowledge to drop. So many notes to go through. Mike, is there anything that you kind of specifically want to talk about in terms of these links, or in terms of these books, or whatever?
I wish now that I'm saying it, I should have done more links, but I can sort of go back and sort of have where they actually are and stuff. On Filmmaking by Alexander McKendrick is my favorite book about film. It's coming from this guy Alexander McKendrick, who did The Sweet Smell of Success and a bunch of really great movies, and he just breaks things down because he's a filmmaker. A lot of these film books are not made by filmmakers, and so they kind of like sometimes like Story by Robert McKee or something. It's a good book to read, but it's like not made explicitly by somebody who makes film. It's made by somebody who studies film. And I found that like Alexander McKendrick's book really helps you like put these things into practice. I literally read that. I was trying to figure out in the ending to a short I was writing. I read the book, I redid the ending, and it made people cry. So get that book. The Boogie Nights thing and Simpsons audio commentaries were things that I listened to growing up, especially the Boogie Nights one, and they just like fired me up and like made me light on fire with excitement about filmmaking.
How much do you listen to commentaries? Like,
non-stop, baby.
You do. You dig in?
I haven't. I actually haven't listened to them in a while, but I'm starting again now that I have more free time. But that's one of my favorite things is like putting on an audio commentary and like playing video games or something. So it's like I'm just sitting around, but I'm also like absorbing knowledge.
Yeah.
The dumpster episode of the Chris Gethard Show is one of the funniest and best things I've ever seen.
Ooh.
And then I got a bunch of movies and also a bunch of like links to talks and stuff. One is by Chris and Phil, which is really great, and then one is by me, and one some advice, and there's also that Ira Glass thing about the gap between your taste and skill level, which I think is really great and really helped me when I was younger. So that's a bunch of stuff.
This is just I've seen some of these and I haven't seen some of these. Like this is I think a perfect open notes list of just mind melters. Let's get a bing 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 bing. Bing 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 bing. And again, hey, there's silent bings in here. Okay? So don't try to add them up. You can.
Does that mean I'm up to 7? Does that mean I get the top?
Yeah, this is more of a when I say bing, that's I know how many. I know what that means.
Okay, all right.
It's more of just like it's fun to say Bing, Microsoft Bing, 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 Bing.
It's so funny. I'm on Microsoft Bing right now. Clock it up.
All right, so.
I like now we're cooking with rice.
Yeah. Okay, so. Open notes. These will be shared. These will be posted on our resources. Go through them. I've heard this Chris and Phil talk and like seriously amazing stuff. Also, just this Mike's story class is absolutely amazing. It's 4 classes that just condense like so much into these just 4 amazing classes that I think that I'm gonna continue to watch like over and over again, and it just keeps reminding you what's important kind of in terms of storytelling.
So just so you know, to you guys out there, is that was almost exactly the class that I taught a group of first year CalArts kids. And 1, they're dominating the industry now, and 2, I think that's just because they were good, not because of the class, but but I will say that it is free. So if you're ever interested in an art school type experience, like I do think that that's a good sort of window into like what a class is like. I mean, they may not all be as good as that one. No, I'm kidding. There's so many great teachers, but yeah, so that is a good one to watch if you're interested in the story.
Yeah. So look through these. We'll post them. We'll post them in the resource page. That is round 1. That is a round 1. You made it through, bud.
Wow.
You made it through. Bravo.
Whoa.
I know. You gotta get settled in. You gotta feel good because things are gonna be heating up a little bit because this is uncharted territory. This is stuff that I didn't get to do at Sanico, which is who knows if any of this leads to knowledge. This next round 2, we're calling it the meat and potatoes.
Woo!
Right? This is a collection of wild. You're just gonna have to go on this journey with me, Mike. But I think we're getting to some knowledge points right now. First up, this is called the Hot Seat Drawing Challenge. I'm going to be drawing. You need to find some things to draw on. I'm gonna draw some things. So I am going to draw. We are both going to draw the same character, and
Okay.
and I am going to from memory, and I am
Okay.
going to be asking you questions. I don't have any questions, so I have to think of the questions, and then you have to answer the questions while drawing the character. So this is the hot seat drawing challenge.
I love this.
3, 2, 1. We're drawing Pumbaa. All right. So, Mike, in terms of you pursuing making a movie, right? Like, what was the experience of just like the saying, "Hey, I specifically want to pursue a movie versus like a TV show or a book or something like that"?
I think that I basically I'm realizing that I'm actually drawing Huckleberry Hound. Like I don't know what Pumbaa looks like, man. The decision to sort of make a movie was, I mean, because like I'd always talked to sort of because I'm buddies with Alex from Gravity Falls, and he's like all about TV, and I've always been sort of like a little bit more interested in movies because they're a little bit more there's like an ending to them. I like things that are like compact and have an ending. And it's like with TV, it's like one thing I love about modern TV is that they've gotten into this rhythm where it's like, okay, we're doing 2 seasons and we're going to plan it out. The thing that I love this drawing. The thing that is the thing that I and it drove me a little bit crazy about he doesn't have tusks, I guess. The thing that drove me crazy about TV was that you would always get it dragged away from you. In a movie, you could just work on. Right. And it's interesting because that's kind of its own hell. Like, it ended up being really incredible because one thing about that you might know about TV is that oftentimes, like, the boards and the final product are really close to each other.
Yeah, right.
You do a board and it's like funny and it lands, they're pretty much going to use that.
Right.
And one thing in feature that was really interesting is like it really gets plussed along the way. So it like wherever and I was used to that TV life, so I was like in the beginning like don't touch the boards.
Right.
And it really that like was a big learning curve for me, like learning to trust the animators who really, if you let them, would bring so many great ideas and make the so much better. But if you didn't, he's a vampire. But if you didn't, you could sort of like limit yourself. So anyway, that's a long way to say that I just was more excited about movies, and I got this crazy opportunity that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And it was like basically because Sony got hacked, and and they were like, what do we do? We're trying to sort of rebuild our animation. We're trying to sort of rebuild our animation department. And they were just like looking for people with new ideas. And they were nice enough to ask me. And I was like, they're like, do you have any ideas? And I was like, of course. Pages. And I had nothing. I was like, I rode up to my hometown and turned on which is 5 hours away, and turned on a tape recorder and just like started violently coming up with ideas. And one of the ideas was the idea for this movie. Because I was just trying to think like, is there something that I could make that would be like that I would love, that I think I could make it a big studio.
Right.
Because and I was like surprised, and I was like, there's definitely a lot of things that you could make that like are commercial enough to, especially because my taste is pretty commercial, like are commercial enough to be made, but also artsy and fun enough and personal enough to be interesting.
Right.
So we tried to the whole time like ride that lightning. And should I show my version of Pumbaa?
I think this is time for the Pumbaa drawing. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Show your Pumbaa.
I don't know.
That's it. Dead on Pumbas.
I don't know what he looks like.
Mike, that is you know what? First off, let me just say, all right, that I'll be honest, that's not fully Pumbaa, but that is a character that my goodness, if somebody doesn't steal it from the chat, if somebody doesn't steal this, like that's a movie. That is a movie that's gonna be made. You can call them.
Can we
You know,
see Pumbaa, or is that against the law? I just want to look.
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna look it up on my phone to just kind of scope out what I did wrong here.
I don't think we did much right. I think I started. Oh yeah. No, who's that? Bebop and Rocksteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
A little bit, and with a little Rocco in there, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's Pumbaa.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Hey,
I gotta say, I'm pretty far off on this.
I don't know, man. That character looks solid. I think you can base a movie around. I fully encourage that.
That's a sequel. Mitchell's Meet Pumbaa.
Meet Oomba.
Meet Oomba.
Hey, if you drew a Pumbaa, share it in the chat. Share it in the Discord. In the what is it? Auditorium chat. All right. Next up, that was some knowledge points. I'm not gonna say it. Let's talk to student Mike. Look at me.
Sure.
Look at me. You're now 19, 22, 23, so somewhere around there. You're in that student age. You're learning animation.
Yeah.
I am you.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I am you. First off, like, what are we doing? What are we if we're sitting down, what are we watching and what are we eating?
Okay, like I would have been watching maybe Warner Brother shorts, or like maybe The Office or something. And I would have been eating some garbage, like Jack in the Box from near CalArts Hamburger Hill.
Yeah,
sourdough Jack.
In terms of so we're back there, and in terms of just like, hey, that time when you consider yourself a student, right? What was kind of like the most helpful like class, or potentially like helpful also kind of like, hey, month or 2 months, and why was that kind of so helpful? Like, let's first go with class, and then if there was kind of a standout period where it was like, oh my god, I'm learning so much, like maybe you can talk about that.
I think there's a lot of things. I mean, there's a couple classes that stand out. Brian Kindrigan, who now is like a writer for video games, and he's great. He taught a story class my first year, and he was like a really great teacher, and it really sort of, I think that I would have fallen into story anyway, but because he was such a sort of strong teacher and sort of like sort of taught so clearly, which is like one of my big inspirations when I was teaching that class at CalArts. I actually got his syllabus and I sort of added some of that stuff to his to my thing, because he was just like, he was the guy who beat clarity into my head. He was the guy who sort of said like one idea per storyboard, and really broke it down, and was also like really sweet and really like kind of a fan, of the students in a really like fun way, where he would crack up at the drawings and stuff, and it, like, if he liked it, it was like, oh man, this is really great.
Right.
And it was also the first time that I had that experience of like pitching to an audience and being like, okay, maybe I'm good at this, because there's a lot of things at school that I wasn't good at. Like I was like, I would probably say better than average at drawing like kind of cartoon, like really cartoony stuff, but way behind drawing anything else. Like everyone in my year could draw circles around me, but I found that I was like, I love story so much that I would get really deep into it, and I would like, if I had a pitch that had a joke in it, I would write like 75 jokes for each joke that was in it, and I would just like throw away the bad ones and use the best one. So I would really like crazily over prepare, and that sort of taught me, and we had like, a board a week. So it really taught me to sort of not be precious about things, and sort of get in the groove with storyboarding. And then the other one real quick is just, I went to an internship at Pixar, which was really wonderful because that sort of was sort of really taught me about like the craft of cinematic storytelling more so than actual just like story. Like how can you take a script page or an idea and board it in a way that is cinematically interesting and pushes all those ideas and makes them more than they would be just reading them on the page. Like how can you, if something's supposed to be scary, how can you sort of manipulate the filmmaking to increase that as strongly as possible?
Yeah.
So those are like maybe my two classes that were most moving.
Yeah. I'm just like weirdly interested in this idea that there's like you know, a couple like months or like a month of time where it just like things started clicking. Was there ever kind of like a period of time for you like that where you just was like, oh my god, the learning thing is happening, and I'm like, yeah, just what kind of was that time period like?
Yeah, honestly, for me, it was probably my third year because that was the year that I decided that I really wanted to do. I decided that I really wanted to do story.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, one thing that was really helpful is that some of my friends had done the Pixar story internship, so they came back with their knowledge.
Right.
And they were like, we were like gathered around the campfire, and they're like, look at the apartments, the you know, like like look at this movie called The Apartment or whatever. And they would sort of like, and they're also, they just like really leveled up when they went there. So we were able to, like, our buddy Pat did that, and we were able to sort of like learn from that. And then in addition, that was when I decided that I really wanted to do story. So I just completely, just every other class I ignored wholeheartedly, and I was only working on story. And also that was the time that I learned sort of one of my most important lessons, which was just that an animatic is sort of that is like where your movie will live and die. And previously I really worked hard on the storyboards, and then I didn't really care about the animatic, but I realized that the animatic and the editing process was like where you either get a laugh or you don't get a laugh, where someone either feels an emotion or they don't feel emotion. If you use this piece of music, they are going to have a swelling in their heart, and if you use this other piece of music, it's going to be like a wet fart. Like so like I did a ton of iteration on my third year film, where again I did the same thing, where it's like I did 100 new jokes and I put in the best 2, and I tried all these different emotional endings, and none of them were really working until we landed on one. And I was like working a lot with my other sort of the classmates and stuff, where it was like Jeff, who I ended up writing the movie with, and Pat, who's doing a thing at Netflix right now. Like we were really like a little film crew, and we sort of like were trying to push each other up and like looking at each other's stuff and being really honest, just on the right side of harsh, about each other's stuff to try to make it better. That was the period for me that I felt like the most growth, I think.
Oh yeah. Okay, Mike. You're now talking to your student self, right? Like you're looking at me, I am you, but the younger version, right?
Okay.
What do I need to hear? What's maybe some advice, even just life advice, some just general like things that you want student Mike to know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the lesson that I learned, and I sort of, if anyone who is there took that little class that I did, this was like my big realization, was that I was so terrified of failure, especially when I was like 18, 19. Before I got into CalArts, like I was so afraid to fail, and I was so afraid to show people stuff, and I was so afraid to go against other people. Not go against other people, but just sort of be in competition with other people, even if it was friendly competition. I was like, no, don't look at my drawings. And it was like really not beneficial to me. So one thing I would say is that, like, hey man, it's okay. Like failure is just learning. You know, if you do a bad drawing, great, learn from it, make a better one. If you do a bad film, that's fine. Your first film, of course, is going to be bad, but then try to make your next one better than that one. and like it's baby steps. And the other thing I would say is that, especially when I was like 18, 19, and especially as it sort of pertains to kids out there right now, is like, just make your thing now. Like, don't, because I had all these ideas when I was 18 in my little sketchbook, and I was like, I hope one day someone will let me do one. And then, but I didn't realize, like, if I had a good idea, I could just make a comic book of it, or I could just make an animated short of it, and maybe it's not going to be the most finished thing in the world, but it'll be something, and it'll like help me grow and learn and stuff. And so that is sort of what I would say, is like, don't wait for anybody, and it's okay to fail. Those, I think, are the two biggest boys that I learned.
Thank you.
Two biggest things. And the other thing I just want to sort of say to anyone who's listening is that it's so easy to, when you're a student, look up at people like Pete Docter or somebody. I really looked up to the guys at Pixar when I was a student, and it's so easy to look up to those guys and be like, oh man, they were just geniuses or whatever. And like, the interesting thing about being at CalArts is that, like, Pete Docter might be, his student films are really, really good, but some of the other guys, their student films were okay, like, and it really made me, it sort of really made me be like, oh my God, these people are humans. And also, like, when I was a kid, I was so scared. And like, now I've directed a movie and stuff. And like, let me tell you, I was terrified in school that I would never get a job. I was terrified at my first job that I'd get fired. I was terrified when I was making this movie that I'd screw it up. Like, and there's a difference. If you let that fear sit in front of you and stop you from doing the thing, that's bad. But if you put the fear behind you and try to outrun it, it can like actually power you and say like, okay, well, look, because I'm scared of failure, I'm going to work as hard as I can on this film. And you know what? Even if it's a failure, I tried my best. I could go down on my deathbed saying like, I tried my hardest. Because that's all you can do. Because if you try your hardest and you still fail, you'll still learn something, and it's not the end of the world. Anyway, so those are, sorry. That
Come
was
here.
long.
Come here. Give me a hug. Give yourself a hug. This is nice. Mike, young Mike very much appreciates it. Okay, next up, we're talking Goat Ask a Question. That's our dog, Goat. She's got a burning question to ask. If she is here. Oh.
Come on, Goat.
Goaty. Hey, Goaty, come here. Come here, baby. She's got a question to ask, and we're gonna put. Hey, Goaty, come here. Come here. Come here. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Goat's a big fan. She has a question to ask you. Let's see what you want to ask. What do you want to ask, Goat? Okay. What do you want to ask? Ingmar Bergman once said, "Film as dream, film as music. No art passes our conscience in the way film does, and goes directly to our feelings, deep down into the dark roots of our souls. What is some advice for hitting the emotional core of a viewer? And what are your experiences of films where, your core has been hit?"
This is the best show I've ever seen. I love this answer. I will watch this every week. No, to answer your question about that's a great quote, by the way. The thing about finding the emotional core of something, I think, is really hard, and it's really important. The key, I would say, is, there's sort of this Pixar saying, and we wrote it up on our board, is just like, make me care, in like glowing letters. And to get to the emotional core of something, there's several things you have to do. One is that you have to treat the emotion seriously. which is even because our movie that we made is goofy as hell in a lot of places. But when it comes to the emotional stuff, we sort of slow down, we bring the music down, sometimes we have no music, and we let like these scenes breathe. And we let the acting be really observed rather than, like if a character is like, hey, I love you, like no one cares, like the audience will revolt or just be bored. But if somebody is like, hey man, I don't know, I love you, I don't yeah, I just said it. Is that okay? Like, and then like if you sort of let it breathe and let those moments happen, the audience will feel it, even if it's otherwise a goofy thing. Cause like, look at, Chris and Phil who made, the Lego movie or whatever. Like there's nothing goofier than the Lego movie in its goofiest points, but there's that movie also makes me cry, and like, I think the other thing about it is, I actually learned another lesson from Gravity Falls. It was the very first episode we wrote. And it was called Legend of the Gobblewalkers, the second episode that aired and the first one we made. And it was the first thing I ever wrote that wasn't a short of mine. And I learned from that, actually, not to diss it or anything, but it was something that we missed. We were going for, but we missed. At the end, I was like, oh, if we do this right, we're going to make people cry. Mm-hmm. Because it's a really sweet story about, a grandpa that just wants to bond with his grandkids. And I realized that when we finished the movie, it didn't work. Mm-hmm. You didn't want to cry. It was like a satisfying episode and it was fine. But because we didn't put in the groundwork in terms of the value that I was talking about early on, and really you have to like show audiences that this movie or this TV show takes place in a world where real emotions happen. People can get their hearts broken. People can die. People can be hurt irrevocably. Mm-hmm. And if you show those things, and if you take those emotions seriously in the beginning, you might be able to pay it off later in the end with something that is really moving. Mm-hmm. So that's my best advice. And then in terms of things that made me cry, there's a movie on that list called A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And it's like an old movie, and people are like, oh, that's corny. That movie made me cry start to back, like T to B tears. I was sobbing, and I think it's because I don't know. It's about a dad who is trying his best, but is obviously an alcoholic. And it's not like my dad is an alcoholic or anything, but it just like I so deeply connected with it. I connected with somebody who is trying their best and failing. Yeah, fight themselves. And I do think that that's the other thing, is that if you find something true, that's another place where the emotions will come, is like taking a core nugget of truth and exposing that. Because if it's just something like, oh, I don't know, we need to have something emotional here, maybe someone dies, I don't know, like that's not going to work. But if you dig deep into yourself, or if your team or whatever it is, like dig deep into something that you really, really care about, like to your bones, and put that in and treat it with the seriousness that it deserves, that's when I think you get somewhere.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Goat? Yeah, she got it. She thanks you. All right, moving on. We're making good time. We're making good. The next question is called the Fruit of Knowledge. And this is basically this is a game where the fruit of knowledge today is a plum.
Okay.
I'm gonna eat this plum. I haven't eaten much today. You're gonna tell me everything that you learned about making movies before I finish this plum. Like when I finish this plum, you stop. Okay? So when I take the first bite, you're gonna drop knowledge on what you learned making a movie.
Okay.
So.
Okay, movies are exponentially harder than TV shows. The longer something is, the more you have to invest time and effort and care into it. Like if the audience only cares a little bit, your movie's dead. They have to care a ton. So it's like the longer your thing is, the deeper it has to be. Three, I would say it's really there's nothing more important to a good joke landing than editing. And also, this is a weird one, but sound mixing, I've learned, can ruin something or make it incredible. If you sort of mix the sound wrong, if the sound if a sound effect is too soft and somebody gets hit in the face, it won't be funny. And if the music is too loud during an emotional scene, you might not cry. You just it's like a fog. Voice actors, I've learned, you should really sort of bring them together. Like the more voice actors, the more they're really acting off of another person, the better their performance will be. That's like one of the big regrets I have on the movie, is that we weren't able to bring people enough together as much as I wanted to. And because it makes the voice acting really spontaneous sounding. Another thing is engaging actors in improv is, we've got some of our best stuff that way. And that's something
that's the pit. Stop it. That's the pit. I got to the pit.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That was fruit of knowledge.
I took too long on that sound mixing one.
That's the end of the round. That's the end of round 2. We're headed.
Oh, you gotta eat the pit.
Okay, I'm not eating the pit, everybody. I'm not eating the pit. I've already done that before, and I know you don't eat the pit. We're headed into round 3. This is where Michael, we're rounding the corner. Last round. A lot of knowledge is being soaked up in this brain, and boy howdy, I don't even know the amount of points that are in here. But let me tell you, I'm
gonna find out if I have a plum so I can eat the pit, because you don't have the energy, you don't have the strength to do it.
Fun fact: that was the first thing that I've eaten all day. So
oh wow,
it was good. Round 3, about audience questions. Everybody in the chat, feel free to ask Mike some questions. Yeah, I think that we're gonna kind of just go through. Let's give a little bit of time to the people. If there's any just general, I don't know, things.
And how much time do we have right now?
You're coming in at 18 minutes.
So guys, you have 18 minutes. You can get volumes out if you just play your cards right.
There is. I want to save a little bit for the final word, which is Mike. That is you. Just final thoughts, final things.
Okay.
To us. So we are going to save a little bit of time for that. But yeah, I think you got a good 15 minutes.
All right, I love it.
How did you know that you want to do like this work? Let's specifically first go into animation and then go into the more specific of storytelling.
Yeah. That one is basically when I was young, I loved cartoons, but I also loved a lot of stuff. Like I would get into, like, I had these really intense, like obsessive, like I'd be super into dinosaurs, and then I'd be super into space, and then I'd be super into cartoons, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And there was something about I read an interview with an animator when I was like 14 or 15, and it really made it clear that, like, oh, this is a path that I can take. And I actually started going on these chat rooms. Mm-hmm. That were like, and some of them had real animators in them, and being able to talk to like somebody who actually worked in animation, I was like, oh my God, these are real people. And also the cool thing, one of the reasons why I'm like so obsessively trying to get all this knowledge out, mm-hmm. is because those people were so nice to me, and they helped me, and they did not have to. Yeah. They didn't have to take 20, 30 minutes out of their day to help some sweaty kid who's like, oh, how do I draw? Is it okay that I'm not good? And they did anyway. And they wrote me these like really like positive, affirming, like emails and stuff. And that was sort of what like powered me to do it. And I tell the story or whatever, but it's like, I read about this guy, Tom Morello, mm-hmm. who played the guitar 8 hours a day. And then he was like in Rage Against the Machine, and people thought he was a great guitarist. So I was like, if I draw 8 hours a day, maybe I could be like Tom Morello. And now here before you, I stand the greatest draftsman of our time.
You made it.
No, but it did. It sort of the passion of that and the hard work of that did lead me to eventually go to CalArts and all that stuff. So
Yeah. I like this question kind of about what is it? Yeah, cringe. Just that feeling of like any tips to make comedy great and not cringeworthy. But yeah, I think like let's veer towards how do you avoid kind of cringeworthy jokes or cringe kind of comedy and that kind of feeling.
The exciting thing to me about comedy is that it's almost like it's basically like the scientific method.
Mm-hmm.
With emotion, you can't really tell if someone in the audience is feeling a swelling in their chest or whatever. But if with the comedy, if you play it for them and they laugh, you win. And if they don't laugh, you lose. So it's like a 0 to 1 on the it's like a binary decision. So basically it's like play it for yourself. Are you laughing? Oftentimes I find that if I chuckle, I might get a smile. If I laugh super duper hard, I might get a laugh. Like you have to really laugh at your own stuff first.
Right.
And then also just show it to people and test it. That's what we did with the movie a ton, where it's like, I think this is funny. Do you, audience? And sometimes they think something that I think is kind of funny is hilarious. And sometimes they think something that I think is hilarious is like they're crickets. So, I mean, like, I think it's just in terms of like cringe or whatever, like just put yourself out there.
Right.
If it's not funny, who cares? Make another thing funnier. It really is just about sort of trying and putting yourself out there and letting yourself fail. And if you're really afraid of failing publicly in terms of like cringe or whatever, you guys have a Discord, show it to your buddies on Discord and be like, all right, this is a safe place. We're not going to make fun of anyone. What do you think this is funny?
Right.
And then somebody can look at it and be like, I don't, but here's maybe how it could be funnier or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Bing. Do you have advice for what to do when you get stuck, hit a wall on a script, story idea, a board, just in terms of hitting that wall?
Yeah.
Take it away.
That's really tough because it sometimes when you hit a wall, you can forget that you ever were good at anything ever. You're like, well, I've lost. I'm a shell of my former self. But I do think that the things that I found ways to push through, which is just like, I think there's a couple lessons. One is like, I think a Roald Dahl thing, which is if you're jamming on something, like, and it's sort of towards the end of the day, quit before you write yourself into a corner. So you end the day with this excitement in your chest, like, oh man, that scene was really great. So then you start the next day kind of like, oh yeah, that was cool. And you have like the self-esteem to be like, oh yeah, that thing I was working on was good. Another way is just like, I am a big believer of if you hit a wall and you're driving yourself crazy, take a break. Like, don't take a 6-month break, but take a day off, or the night off and just like watch something. And then the other thing is like, watch something inspiring, talk to your friends, go have an experience. It's harder now with the world, but and then in the morning, whenever you come back to writing, don't let yourself be intimidated by a blank page. Just start writing or just start drawing, and it's just like, let yourself, and even if you're writing, this is shit, this is crap, what am I doing, I hate myself, blah 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 blah, like, just type whatever you're thinking, and then eventually, if you just make yourself keep going, you'll start writing again. And even if it's like not good at first, like, you're in the zone, and that's as good as you can do if you sit down and write. And you're actually writing and not just staring at the screen or walking around or eating a sandwich and it's like being intimidated by the screen. Like, don't be intimidated by the screen. It can't hurt you.
Yeah. I like this. Like, when do you know a story idea is kind of the one, right? With narrowing down ideas and just kind of like, or when a story is kind of good enough to really start, hey, working with. Yeah.
I think it's a combination. It depends on how long the thing you're doing is. If it's a movie, you should be really, cautious. But if it's like a comic or something quick, just do it. If it feels like, oh, that'd be fun, just do it. Just do it now. Don't even worry about it. But if it's something longer, that like a full comic, or if it's like a full short or anything. I think to me the best way to do the way I do it, and this might not be for everybody, but I just write tons of ideas. I write 50, 60 ideas or something. If again, it's do this in proportion to how long the thing will take you. So if the thing's going to take you a year, write 100 ideas. If the thing's going to take you a week, write 20 ideas. And then just sort of, hone in on the ones that are your favorites, and then show them to friends that you trust and stuff, and say like, hey, does this sound good? Does this sound good? And you might not want to do that, because like I personally, as an artist, am a big believer in audience feedback. So to me, that works for me, because like I want everyone who watches it to love it. But if you are more about a personal vision that you have, then screw anybody else and just do the one, write a bunch of ideas and pick the one you like the best and then roll. I think it's really important to, once you pick the idea, just go, baby. Because there's so like the time it takes you wondering like, should I have done the other idea is making the thing you're working on bad. Because you're not working on that, you're like daydreaming, because it's the other idea always sounds amazing when you're working on the main idea, because the main idea, things get hard, and with the other idea that you aren't doing, it seems easier because you haven't figured out what the problems are with it yet. So it's like, to me, once you pick an idea, just go, baby, and never look back.
Yeah. This is a toughie. Do you have any advice on creating an engaging second act? Second act specific advice.
Woo! Yeah, that is toughie. Second act.
Just general.
That's whoever asked that question. That's one of the hardest things. I still think the second act of our movie is too long. But no, it's great. It's great. Watch it. Only by a couple seconds, guys. But no, I think the second acts are really difficult, and I wish I had better advice on this. But I mean, I think the thing here's some cheap advice that I think is kind of good, is if you're having a tough time with the second act is the longest one. So I also think it's good to break it up. A lot of people break up the second act into like second act part 1 and second act part 2. And the nice thing about that is that forces you to do something really big with the story in the middle of the second act. Like, to me, if you're having a hard time with your story's second act or whatever, or a section, coming up with a big new development to shake things up, I think will reveal a lot to you. Even if you don't end up going with that idea, I do think that like one of the hardest things to do when you're a student is when you're writing something, oftentimes you write things that are really repetitive. Like the first draft of our movie was so repetitive. It had so many scenes and lines that were kind of like other scenes and lines in the movie. And we sort of whack-a-mole those down, but it's easy, especially when you're starting out, to do repetitive things. So if you are just try, I guess that, you know what, here's the advice.
Yeah.
This is what I learned on the movie, is that just try everything. Just throw a million ideas at it. That's sort of like the Chris and Phil approach that I learned a lot from. And it's kind of like evolution or something. Like you watch something and then you have a bunch of different ideas. Like, well, maybe you could do this, and maybe you can do this, and maybe you could do this, and maybe you could do this. And the answer is, instead of arguing about which one you should do, it's like, do crappy versions of all of those things. Like if you have 10 ideas on what to do with your second act, do all of them in the quickest form you can. Like whether that's an outline or really quickly written scenes or whatever it is, or storyboards or whatever. But do them really quick and really crappy. And even if you stand back and look back at all these ideas, even if they have crappy execution, there will be 1 or 2 or 3 things that'll jump out and be like, well, that really works. And that really works. And then you can start to build from those things that work and are like sticky. And that is honestly how we did our second act for our movie, is that we just kept trying new stuff. And it's like, what if the dog dies? What if this thing happens? What if this thing happens? And we would just try them, like either write them out or try them in storyboards. And 90% of them didn't work, but the 10% that did, made our second act way better than it was before.
Yeah. This is kind of just general question, but industry advice. Do you need to go to college? Advice on school and maybe portfolio breaking into the industry.
Yeah,
totally. Just kind of general.
This is like hard, and it's easier now than it's ever been, which is the good news. I mean, because there are resources like Open Animation and Rise Up Animation and all that stuff that are free and that you don't have to pay for. And even you can do Schoolism and these places, which are way cheaper than college. I mean, I think it really depends on, like, look, because I went to Cal Arts and I was very fortunate that I got a loan. My parents were able to help me out a little. Like, it was, not everyone has that. And I don't think everyone needs that either. Mm-hmm. It is really helpful to be in a community of artists that are all making films at the same time. Like, I won't lie to you about that. It was really helpful. It's helpful to Tyler, it's helpful to me. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking for you, Tyler. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
But I don't think that's the only way to go about it. And I think that now more than ever, especially if you don't have the money, it's like, it's a big monetary commitment, man. And if you don't have the money, like, that's a lot of debt. So I would try first to hack together stuff or go to a good state school, mm-hmm. or find just take online courses and live at home, because I really do think you could kind of cobble together a curriculum with some really incredible artists, mm-hmm. at Schoolism or one of these places. And it's like where you're learning from like the best guys at Disney. Yeah. Like Ryan Lang, who worked on our movie, was like teaching a class on one of those things. And it's like, he was like one of the best artists I've ever met. Mm-hmm. Like, so you could learn from that guy, and because sometimes you'll go to one of these like prestigious schools, and I had a lot of great teachers, but I also had some true maniacs, mm-hmm. that like I learned nothing from. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you are able to pick your school a little bit, I do think it's like, honestly, what I would do is try doing that first because it's much cheaper.
Yeah.
And see where that gets you.
Yeah.
So that's my little spiel.
Cool. Yeah. Do you have any just kind of like, this is kind of a tough question because, right, it's, I think the industry is broadening in terms of, hey, it's not just Los Angeles, right? It's the entire world, and working in animation is an entire world thing, especially with, people making content on YouTube. But yeah, in terms of, breaking into the industry, do you kind of have any specifics?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough too. I mean, because one thing is find out everything you can. Because one thing that was interesting about me, I don't know if it's interesting, I'm saying it though. One thing that maybe is interesting about me is that before I went to Cal Arts, I went to a school called CCA for Illustration for a little bit. And after that school, I still had no idea what to do. Mm-hmm. I was like writing letters to individual artists, like, can you help me, sir? I didn't know what to do. So it's like really, you can find out a ton of information on websites, message boards, whatever. Mm-hmm. Just be a little grimy mole and find out all that stuff. And find out sort of like all the secrets.
Yeah.
And I would also say, oh my God, I forgot the question.
Just kind of industry stuff.
Oh yeah, breaking into the industry. Is that I think the way that I sort of broke in was that it was like I went to Cal Arts and stuff, but the main thing that got me in the doors of places was my third year film work.
Right.
Check it out. It's on YouTube. There's a lot of comments about a plot hole in it.
Ooh.
But I am still proud of it. And that got me more, like, 10 times more interviews and opportunities than anything in a portfolio ever
yeah
did.
And I think we're just seeing that like constantly, where people are just making stuff online, even just boardomatics. Right, I think that goes back to making animatics. Like, those are films. Those are films that can get shared around and can get people attention. Okay, last question of this deal. I like this one. No, I got it. Oh yeah. Do you have any advice for creating like a good culture on like a team project? You know, just like, hey, this is you're kind of maybe stewarding the ship, and just what maybe some things that you learned about building culture, something like that.
That's a great question. I mean, I think that I do really think that I'm going to try to do this more on the next project. I think that there's a couple things. One is that I really think you should approach the job with a spirit of joy and generosity. And that might sound obvious, but if one thing that I always try to do, because I have had jobs where I felt like the bosses and stuff would sometimes take for granted someone's ideas or their passion or something. So I would always try to hear people out, and I would always try to be as pumped as I could be about great work, and as generous as I could be about things that might not go well. But, you know, I understand that this is tough, but, you know, I think we can get to a better place with it or whatever. So that, and I sort of found that, you know, because each part of the movie is like its own little pod. And one of the pods that was like really sort of that I was like really that I really admired was Lindsay Oliveris, who was our production designer. She was like so welcoming and sweet, and really took the time to reward artists, like if it's their birthday, to make a little caricature of them. If you know, hey, it's Thursday and it was a hard day, let's get drinks, everybody. You know, taking the extra time and like, let's just get coffee and take 2 hours off and not stress out so much about this meeting. You know, she was really good about sort of that kind of leadership that I actually admire and want to try to emulate. In just that culture life stuff, and treating that as important as the job. Because when people are happier and healthier, they want to do better work anyway, and they're happier in their lives. It's a double win.
It's a double bing.
Bing, bing.
Because I love that too, where it's like some people do just naturally bring that, and that's who they kind of naturally are. But it's also something that like I've seen where it's been like, oh my God, you can learn that by examples of people doing that, and just how important that is to a production is insane, or just life in general.
I think it's night and day, and things can get like kind of toxic and stressful if you don't really make time for that stuff. And I think that whatever project you're on, if no one's doing that, try to be the person yourself. You know? And also I feel like every production should have someone whose only job is to just try to make sure people are happier.
That's the king. Oh no! Oh my goodness, Mike, we gotta the knowledge bell has rung. Before we go into tabulations, going into the final. You know what? No. I'm switching this up because like we need to end on this.
Okay.
Let me get this over here. Congratulations. You did it. You've gone through the gauntlet. You've gone through 3 whole rounds of this sucker.
Oh my.
Yeah, you did it. And I don't know if you can see this, but this is Nicole Kidman. She's clapping for you and her husband. Right.
Is that Keith Urban?
Yeah. That's him.
Keith Urban?
That's him. So you have, I think, collectively blown all of our minds in these 3 rounds. The tabulations are beginning. The beep. Jess, can I get a number coming from you? Got it. All right, we're coming in. Final tabulations. $375 knowledge points. That's never been done before. because we had one. This is the first time we've had knowledge points, but if we're going back to this scale, yeah, absolutely insane.
That was my Nintendo Switch, by the way.
No. Michael, I don't know if you. I don't.
It's okay.
It means nothing compared to knowledge. Michael, you get the tongs, you get the rice steamer, you get this beautiful hand-drawn picture of you buffed with a tattooed chest saying you're the machine. The machine is you. Mitchell's versus you.
I love this.
You did it. You dropped some knowledge, and we are all freaking wiser for it. I will say the this is the last thing is how we go out here and share your secrets is, hey, you get to say just some final words, and then when you say done, you're done, and then we shut this thing down. Stop streaming. I press the button when you say thank you so much, Mike. Everybody thank you for attending. Thank Mike. See Mitchell versus the Machines. It's going to be freaking insane. I'm so excited, man.
Netflix, be there.
I'm so excited. But yeah, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your secrets. And on that note, you get the final word.
Okay. My final word is, I think, if you're out there and you're struggling, know that that's normal and that's part of it and that's okay. And don't forget to find joy in the struggle and find joy in animation, because you're doing this because you loved it in the first place. And you're doing it because it's something that brings you joy and brings other people joy. So don't forget that in the like angst of like, will I get a job? Because it's like, if you're only focused on that, you're gonna miss out on how fun it is to make cartoons. It's super fun. There were times in the movie where I really lost sight of that, and I got so stressed out, and I was like, couldn't sleep, and I got freaked out. And there were times when I would remember, like, oh my gosh, I get to sit here with some people that I love, the crew, and like Jeff, who was one of my best friends, and Guillermo and Lindsay and Mike Lasker and Alan Hawkins, all these people who were such great collaborators. And we were just like having fun coming up with the funniest way to have a dog lick a man's mouth, and it's important to remember to find joy in that, even though it is stressful, but that stress will always be with you. And like I said, if you put the stress behind you and let it power you to do better things, and if it's as opposed to having it in front of you and having it stop you and scare you, then you'll be able to move forward and progress. And don't ever lose that joy, baby. That's my final word. Thanks, everybody. Woo! This is the best thing I've ever done.
Michael, thank you so much.
Tyler, you're the best.
Bing.
I would do this.
I'm so happy. Bing to you. A bing to you, sir. All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.